There it is.
Okay, we're on air. Hey, this is Cameron Marceau and
How are you?
Rita Yadavali.
Hello.
We're doing another MyFriendsAreAwesome.com because our friends are awesome. And by the way, Aaron,
Yes.
you can fucking cuss here, okay? So
Excellent.
my friends are fucking awesome. We'll just go ahead and say that.
Well,
And
yes.
here's one of my friends right here. This is Streeter, and he's been along with me on this journey the whole way. And this is the friend that we are talking to today, Mr. Aaron Cohn.
Hello, Aaron.
Hello. Hello. Nice to be here.
Excellent, excellent. So this is again an ongoing project that Shri and I have been doing, where we're dragging people in front of the camera and talking about. We're catching up since the Knox days. Now this isn't necessarily just a Knox thing. It's just that the friends that Shri has and the friends that I have, well, they intersect. We're doing like mutual Facebook friends. I'm making the intersection, the joining fingers here. So the intersection of our friends happens to be mostly Knox folks. And actually Shri knows like everybody. So like we have content forever.
Right. And if we just stayed in the Knox profile, we could be good for at least a few years if we wanted to. At some point, we're going to have to start introducing our crowd as this gets. We hope that it gets more popular and more utilized, so that you may start your own video chat with your friends who are awesome, and throw it on there, and it's just a conversation of catching up. What are we about? Should topics of interest show up, or topics of topical nature, or parenting nature, or
and the way I see it is that now we are all really old, and like now we know people who are doing stuff because we've been around long enough that we've become specialists, and we do crazy things. Like I know people who are in fields that you just kind of like, really? How does that happen? And so it's like, we're kind of like going back and talking to these people who are doing things that are, like, really, how does that happen? And getting that story, because I have a feeling that
we only knew them as folks who drank with us in college, or had a class with us, or was our TA, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I've gone very far beyond that. I think my experiences in academia have been very varied because I have spent too much time in school and a little bit of time in the real world, and so.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute. I think that it's important that first of all, let me open up the questions. How are we connected from your perspective?
How are
the three of us connected?
Well, literally, I mean, we of course we share the sort of very tight-knit Knox community thing. I think for us, for anybody who goes to a small liberal arts school, that's a good one. It's going to occupy a more important piece of your life and in your memory than college does for most people, I think.
Sure.
Like somebody who went to somebody might have a great experience going to University of Missouri. A lot of my high school friends went to Mizzou, but it just occupies a different part of their brain or something, and so yeah.
Doesn't it seem like it may be a little bit, even though Knox is actually smaller, when you're in a larger campus, like your friends get tighter, like the circle is smaller than, because I feel like Knox, like I know a lot more people than if I was in a larger place. Like you're just overwhelmed with all of the people, and so you don't branch out, you don't reach out, and you don't experience as many people. It's more like everybody who's in your field and everybody you met the first week, or
Yeah, and then then it has the effect, I guess, Knox does, of now it feels kind of like a big sort of extended family that that because of Facebook, you get to kind of keep in touch with. And so yeah, so then we get in these kind of huge discussions where where you guys will be replying to a thread, and Mark Piani will, and Ginger Pennington, and then like 18 other Knox people will come in, and then then they get connected with folks from other parts of your life. Like one of my favorite things is when you get onto some kind of intense thread, and like especially like my nerdy friends, like my geeky friends that I enjoy so much, in technology, they get sort of arguing about something that I don't understand, like SQL, like sort of yeah, like
a coding question or a hardware question or something like that. Yeah,
some of the most dire and dangerous kinds of questions out there.
Yeah, I feel like
I
made something happen in the world when I make those connections happen.
Aaron, what brought you to Knox in the first place? In other words, what and what was your immediate? Did you know that this was sociology, as I recall, or was it psychology? Psychology, I believe. Was your
actually philosophy? I was a philosophy major.
Oh, you're philosophy, and so there's that connection with Cameron outside of.
Yeah.
Because I didn't. Yeah. Symbolic logic was about as much as philosophy I took care of, so I needed to be done with that. But you guys you guys got your Kant and your Goethe and all that sort of thing going. Okay.
Yeah, a little bit of that. So it's kind of funny because I had all these these one or two English teachers who would tell me, oh, I think you need to go to a small liberal arts school, and I said, okay, well, I started kind of looking at a few of those, but then one of my sister's best friends, my older sister, her friend's name was Stephanie Recht, and she went to Knox. I know
this is the Stephanie we know, right?
You might know her because she went to.
She went to Knox, right?
For like a year.
Really? Yes. Was that it? I thought it was longer.
Maybe 2 years. Yeah.
I think I wore her tights.
Mhm. Oh, you wore her tights?
Yes.
I'll have to ask her. Yeah.
No, I'm going to ask you that question. What the hell are you talking about?
Who, me?
Yeah.
It was a teeth gag. It was a thing where we all like wore tights for when we did the spontaneous midnight aerobics class.
Nice.
Do you remember?
No, I was gone from there. You have to tell me this story.
You were definitely at Knox at the time.
Was I?
Yeah, I don't know whether you woke up and came down, but yeah, you guys
must have been pledges at the time.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And we broke in and played music and we're wearing.
Yes, and we all did.
We did a quick workout at like midnight.
Yes.
Or 2 a.m. or something. Yeah. That was so. Yeah. We know Stephanie.
Stephanie's all good.
I'm very familiar. I was in her
She has long brown hair, like long straight brown hair. She's real cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. She actually she's a belly dancer. She's very, very good at that. I haven't been able to see her lately, but she's actually quite like an advanced belly dancer.
Really?
But, yeah.
Really? Yeah. Are you serious? Hey, Shree. Are you friends? You're not friends with Stephanie, are you?
No.
See, this is where it's like, how do you become a belly dancer?
Oh well, she needs to be your next subject. She's much more interesting than me in that regard.
Well, what are you up to now? What's the story? I mean, like, okay, so you graduated from Knox. You probably did like a week after I did because you were much more devoted to the mission. I mean, I don't know.
Maybe I was. I don't know. Yeah. So thing is, I've always had like a lot of academic ambition and not as much follow through as I sort of could have had, or it's something like. So I'll just tell you what happened. So Well, the long version, I could give you the long version of the story. So I applied for a post baccalaureate position, or fellowship at Knox, and I got it, and I had all these ideas of what I was going to do. What I wound up doing was I invited my younger sister up from St. Louis to come stay with me.
Uh-huh.
She was having some serious problems with drugs. So I wanted to take her from that environment, and to get into a less druggy environment. So
She didn't go to the teak house, did she?
oh, she went all over. She had way more friends than I ever did at Knox. I remember actually she said she was at a party at the teak house, and someone said, "We like you a lot better than your brother."
Oh my God!
And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, no, she's much more social than I am, much more extroverted, outgoing, I guess. Um, so I spent most of basically that was the majority of my time that I spent was sort of looking after her, and
Okay.
sort of through her recovery, because she had a pretty life-threatening sort of illness that was due to the drugs and things like that. So that was what I spent my post-bac year doing.
Okay.
Then I tried I wanted to get into a really good PhD program in philosophy, so I decided to go to one of these well-regarded master's degrees in psych, after which you can go on to maybe go to Princeton or something like that.
Uh-huh.
But so it was at Northern Illinois University, which is I guess it's a well-regarded
Sure.
philosophy.
When was your time at NIU?
I was there for just a couple months.
What about what time period?
1998.
I was there in '98 too.
Oh, really?
I was in DeKalb. I was playing at autos the whole time.
Okay. Okay.
I was trying for a master's degree in biochemistry,
Mhm.
and I was working under a grant from Monsanto. And the professor and the grant money got moved to Oregon or something, and they left me stuck at DeKalb with no way to matriculate to another laboratory or to TA. So I ended up just waiting tables and playing music and bartending until my resume panned out. In right around '98, August of '98, I moved out to the East Coast. So we might have missed each other by minutes, because I left at the beginning of the class year '98, I think. So that's pretty neat.
Well, yeah, DeKalb is not a good place to get stuck in.
No, I met some very nice people. Don't get me wrong. I had a pretty strong music career. I was making rent with it out of DeKalb. Don't touch the Kishwaukee River, and you're stuck for life.
Yeah,
if you're touching the mighty Kish, then you can leave DeKalb free and clear. But if you touch the Kishwaukee River, then you're stuck.
I literally got a notice in the mail in my little apartment about the I think the radon or radium in the water.
Right.
Like the water was like radioactive.
Yes, it was. Mostly because of the physics department and the biology department.
And it's the only place I've ever been to where the water tastes worse than Galesburg, because it was so heavy in minerals. It tastes like blood. It was so.
Wow. So you were there for like a couple of months?
Yeah, and then I was taking. So it turned out that naturally that philosophy, as it's done in the on the professional philosophy level, is not as it's not as much fun as sort of like the Knox kind of you can make connections to anything, sort of it's the thing where you're just really deepening your understanding of whatever you want.
Are you familiar with Partially Examined Life or any podcasts or anything that are?
No, not really.
It seems like a lot of philosophy people end up doing that kind of thing because like actually doing it academically is hard because it's not as free as you would think or want. And so
Right.
people like create their own thing. They need a different venue for that.
Yeah, and that makes tons of sense. If the internet had been grown up, you know, the way it is now, like back then, I imagine, yeah, if I could have made connections or something. But I'm
So
yeah,
so
sorry.
so no, sorry. I'm so like so it wasn't so philosophy you decided philosophy was really more lame than you thought.
I remember being in a class on it was Descartes. It was yeah, I think the whole class was Descartes, and and I mean it was it was fun, instructive, interesting in some ways. But then I think I realized that I was supposed to sort of take something seriously that I couldn't take seriously, like like the ontological argument for the existence of God. I was actually supposed to, I guess, consider whether or not it was correct. And to me, it's more like, well, this is an interesting cultural text because it's gobbledygook. It means nothing. I mean, but so unless and there's probably from a mathematical standpoint, like somebody who's interested in like the philosophy of mathematics or something, there's probably something in there that's sort of meaningful in a mathy kind of way. But
Uh-huh.
to me, it was just not. I was like, if it's going to be this like the whole time, there wasn't enough for me
Yeah.
to sort of connect to.
So you
So
got dissuaded by the professional philosophical zeitgeist.
yeah, and the thing is, there was more sort of in the philosophical kind of uh, you can do more than just like Descartes and analytical philosophy. You can get into phenomenology and things like that, but then you have to really play that political game and like know who to talk to and know sort of
Yeah.
what schools to go to. And yeah, I mean, it's just like gets kind of icky. Um, so yeah, and then so I guess I needed to sort of do a little more sort of self-discovery or something, and then and it was just kind of sort of lonely up in DeKalb. So yeah yeah
So I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to see each other in the Cal. I would
oh
have
yeah
shown
Well,
introduced you to a rather eclectic crowd. It was I met some of the I met my people. I met folks who would easily find my social circles at Knox to be home for them.
mhm.
You know what I mean?
Oh
I
great
don't want to say they'd be teaks necessarily. I'd say that they would find especially my musical set and my musical appreciation set
hmm
very much in tune with what I was doing at Knox.
oh yeah
And I hung out with that crowd, and I think it would have garnered conversations that would be less ontological.
right
Probably
but
got inside the academia
but
side.
you were looking you were realizing something much deeper though, right?
Right, I agree. He was.
yeah yeah I think I was. I mean, I had there's a lot of stuff I had to figure out. And I mean the main like okay, like the most significant event after that was that I spent a year working at my sister's law firm, or not my sister's law firm, but the one that she was an associate at. It was a big law firm downtown St. Louis, and I met the person who became my partner for the next 13 years.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
Nice.
yeah, and we had a good partnership for a long time. And then I think I learned what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be sort of like during that time.
Hmm.
And and I through in the meantime I got two master's degrees because I got into the creative writing fiction writing program at Washington University.
Okay.
And so that I mean that was a good time. I mean that it was well funded. I didn't have to pay for it, and we had amazing writers who came to visit, frequently. I met Richard Ford. You guys heard like the novelist Richard Ford? Um, so just a number of my sort of like literary heroes. I got
Literary. Okay.
and
Cool.
so yeah. I mean, and I saw Susan Sontag, like
Wow.
maybe a year before she died. She had a conversation with William Gass, like a live sort of conversation.
Sure.
I met or didn't meet, but I got to be in a room with Salman Rushdie.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so
He's taller in real life than he looks like on TV, as I recall.
yeah, I just saw him seated. I think he was just sort of sitting on a couch, and
I can't think of this guy who's reviled by like the fundamentalist Muslims is only my height, like 5'5.5", and is balding like me. I want him to be this gargantuan, tall, almost superhero type writer.
A Goliath
A Goliath of epic proportions, and yet
to be taken down by a stone.
he looks like the guy selling me halal meat at the market. You know what I mean?
oh yeah,
It looks so unobtrusive in real life when in fact this guy's writing is just so revolutionary. But,
yeah. Most writers are kind of like that. Like they're either just like there's two kinds. I feel like there's two kinds of like famous writers that I've met. The kinds that are like insanely nice and like you can't believe that you're not like best friends with them, and they're just smart, nice people.
right.
Or they're super mean and standoffish, and like there's nothing in between. Like,
Huh.
Yeah, like.
But now you have a perspective on that, right? Because now you're what, psychology?
Yeah, I later. Yeah, well, after I finished my my MFA, for some reason, I guess basically like my Knox career was sort of divided between sort of creative writing and philosophy, and so the philosophy didn't work out. So I tried creative writing, and still something wasn't connecting. Like I wasn't sort of self-motivated to kind of really make a go of it with creative writing as a career and things like that. And and so it was through my teaching experiences and other sort of professional experiences I started to think, well, what do I want to do on a day-to-day basis? Well, like what do I want to do today, tomorrow? What's going to kind of get me moving in my life, and
No, I just do that often. While you keep talking, don't mind me.
Okay. So yeah, like what is really meaningful to me, and one of my favorite things that I did was just to help out students on a one-to-one basis. So I mean, I thought I'm good with dealing with people individually, and just sort of like working through their problems, basically.
Sure.
So I thought, I'm supposed to be a counselor. I'm supposed to be some kind of therapist, so I started a master's program in clinical psychology. I mean, I had to overcome some serious like math anxiety and math problems, and I overcame that for enough, for my purposes. So I did that, and I feel like I learned everything I know about people and just interacting with people and being effective with people. I learned through my master's program in psychology. I needed to learn that from an academic standpoint.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you okay? Now forgive my ignorance, but like, so are you approaching it from the brain chemical side of like looking for ways of healing people with chemical imbalances, or are you taking it more from the dream analysis side, the psychoanalysis?
Psychoanalytical side.
Yeah.
Probably neither, because what I wound up really connecting with was behavioral stuff.
Okay.
You think like behaviorism. I mean, when you say behaviorism, you sort of expect, you expect that, I'm gonna, I'm gonna be a skeptic about your internal world. Like I'm going to think like you don't actually have thoughts and feelings or something. That's sort of an old-fashioned view of behaviorism. I'm into more sort of like what they call third wave behavioral interventions, like acceptance and commitment therapy and dialectical behavior therapy, and so yeah, I'm more from coming from a behavioral perspective, and I mean I could obviously get into that, but
I want you to get into that, and he's
okay.
screaming, "No! Look at this! Look at you!" So, sort of a confluence of a number of things that we're just talking about, especially from your perspective, Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the guy in Santa Barbara for a minute, and it partially goes back to the opener that you gave about the difference between your friends who went to Mizzou or even Washington University, and the folks who went to Knox. And we were going to discussion how it's a different set of circles. There are many who would have been concerned that guys like Cameron and myself, less so Cameron, but more me, would be a lot like in a larger university in a UC Santa Barbara environment where there's 25,000-30,000 people, that any one of us could feel unloved like this guy did. His manifesto openly says it.
Right.
That he felt unloved or and there. Can you talk about your opinion? Obviously, you don't know the facts of the case, or perhaps you're not following it. I don't know, but your thoughts from your clinical perspective on your behavioral perspective on the difference between a 50,000 person school or 30,000 person school and a 2,000 person school with respect to sexual frustration, identity,
All I really know about this guy is that in his manifesto, there's something about he's very angry at women because they didn't want to have sex with him. Right. Like that's basically the upshot.
And that he was a virgin at 22 or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So was I. I didn't.
Get over yourself. Move on. There are other things to worry about.
I didn't hate men because they didn't have sex with me until I was 22. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It seems like something's gonna happen anyway. I mean, like he's there's probably a reason why women aren't having sex with him.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
And that's also the reason why he thinks he should shoot people because of it. It's like it's all kind of rolled in together.
But here's the bigger thing. I mean, supposedly he had something like 400 rounds.
Yeah.
400 rounds of ammunition.
Here's something maybe to get started with the behavioral kind of thing. One of the things we do in behavior therapy is called behavior chain, or a functional analysis. So like the letters ABC stand for antecedent, behavior, and consequence. So if you're trying to change a behavior, you look at what's happening in the environment immediately before the behavior occurs, and then what happens immediately afterwards.
Sure.
So because what's happening afterwards is going to be the reinforcer that's going to keep the behavior coming.
Okay.
So I mean, like anything that you're trying to change, like if you're trying to stop smoking, what's the thing that happens? Usually, it's usually an internal event, an emotion or a thought that then triggers, a sense of like, I want to get rid of this. I want to get rid of this emotion. I want to get rid of this feeling. The way I do it is by smoking, and then so I smoke, and then right afterwards, I don't have that feeling anymore. I don't have that thought anymore.
Sure.
And then that's the reinforcer.
It's usually tied to stress, as I remember from the time I smoked. I just recently quit, so it's been 3 years. 3 years. And
really? Only 3? Okay.
It's been 3. Well, it will be 3 years in October, I believe. So
did you have any relapses while you were
not
quitting?
one, not a single relapse.
Awesome.
Not even thinking about it. Well, not. At this point, I don't even bother thinking about.
Yeah. But there was a time, right? Then, like, after.
Oh yeah, no.
Quit.
Immediately afterwards, there's a time where, hey buddy, I got $1. Can I buy a smoke off of you?
Mm-hmm.
I would do that way early. I would think about doing that way early on, and then I would go, hold on a minute.
Right.
You know,
And what would prompt you?
back in your pocket. Let's go move on.
Like, what was this? What was the? And I would wonder, like, what the internal stimulus was that led you to want to sort of go and bum a smoke or buy a cigarette.
More likely than not, it was cognitive stress.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'd call it, or operational stress. I guess, where the things that were going on, the deadlines that I was doing, or the things that I were doing, wanted me to take a break from those or reset myself.
Mm-hmm.
I usually had a cigarette daily to be able to go, okay, I've got all these things on my plate. Now I need to rearrange them. I need to step away from the plate. And all the better to go take a break and have a cigarette.
Right.
And now I can look back at the plate and I go, oh, this goes here, this goes here. Now let's work on A, B, C, D, E, F, go. And I needed to train myself to do that without needing to step outside. That's that's all I did, And the bigger factor was actually not buying. It wasn't a matter of not smoking anymore because I knew it was bad for me. Just don't buy the pack of cigarettes.
Right.
I never actually quit. I never actually, like there was a period of time when I would actually buy packs of cigarettes and stuff, but I've never devoted myself to quitting. I don't smoke. I just never, I don't know. It's almost like I felt like the stress of actually choosing to quit was a lot more. I disagree. I just did other things.
Always to me. You know what the bigger picture was?
If I want a cigarette now, I'll go have a cigarette. I have no problem with that. But it's just
not. I have an addictive personality. Number one, both to the addictee as well as my own addictive personality. But I also feel that I have to. My usual MO is I'm not going to tell you what to do if I want you to do something. I'm going to show you what I need from you and then do it. The main reason why I quit is that I got caught. And I didn't get caught by my wife, who didn't like me smoking, but she tolerated it. I got caught by my 5-year-old kids.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to go 20 years from now, hey, kid, you really shouldn't smoke. It's bad for you. Then I'm the biggest hypocrite in the world. Everything I say out of my mouth is bullshit. Everything.
Well, that's true of your kids anyway. They're gonna think that of you within 10 years.
I've argued with them about alcohol. They don't like me drinking. My wife doesn't. The thing is that I don't drink every day, and I don't drink excessively. I don't, I don't rip. I don't destroy homes or ram cars into things. I'm nervous when I do drink and have to drive a vehicle home. I more likely dial it back. And I told them that anything in moderation is good. There are certain things that aren't because of their addictive qualities. Alcohol is farther down the list than, say, cigarettes and heroin. I don't want you to do either of those.
But one of the things that's helping you, I think, to regulate your behavior is having this value. So you have the value that you want to be a guy who sort of walks the walk.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I'm not saying that don't do it. I'm saying that there is a way, and then there is a bad way of doing it.
Right.
There's an embarrassing way of doing it. There is a illegal way of doing it. Where it gets you into trouble just for doing it.
Right.
So those are the parts that you want to avoid. But doing it, I could step away and go out and have a cigarette. I don't give a shit. I don't care less. I had to tell my wife, tonight, sweetheart, it's been a long week. I'm going to talk to my friends, and I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm not going to drink the whole thing, because it's too good to drink at one sitting. But a little bit, for medical purposes.
To try to maybe sort of bring it back to your original question about
which is going back to this guy who
we don't know, like, here's the extent to which we don't know the whole story. We don't know, like, the sequence of events that led up to him being able to buy that however many rounds of ammunition.
Yeah.
You know, so this is like a very sort of complex chain of behaviors that led up to this, you know, one sort of horrible event. And so, I mean, it's going to be impossible to sort of the press is going to try to sort of distill it into one or two issues. Like, it'll either be about guns, or it'll be about, like, women. Like, should women just have sex with men to keep them from going crazy or something?
Check that on Hannity and Combs. If somebody just loved Hitler, you know.
So, actually, Aaron, I've got a question. I mean, isn't there a way to look at this, though, and kind of identify on any level with this person and what he did? I mean, I imagine, and this is just a guess, but I imagine, because I feel like probably everybody does it, he went through this fantasy of victimization, and then the way that he got back, or maybe he's been doing it all along, various conversations he would have with people, various things he would say, various, you know, scenarios, and, you know,
that became his story.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
and don't you think we all kind of do that on a level?
We do. We all have a story, and we get stuck when we over-identify with one particular story over, you know, that, you know, like, a lot of times, you know, when someone comes in and they say, I'm depressed or I have anxiety, I don't immediately start thinking, okay, well, what are your symptoms? You know, let me see if you're diagnosable. If someone says the way we're taught in family therapy, and family therapy is it's a different kind of, it's not just the behavioral stuff. It's a set of perspectives that's sort of over and above sort of the behavioral stuff, but what they're trying to do when they come in and say I'm depressed is control your relationship. It's starting to kind of put rules on the relationship. You have to view me as a depressed person.
Yeah. Okay.
You know. You have to view me as a person with these properties of,
you know. Yeah.
And so then my question, you know, internally, I'm thinking is like, what are they trying to get out of that identification? Out of, you know, that diagnosis?
It's like what's behind this story that I'm telling you. It's like It's like a facade. They're creating this vision that they want you to see, but it's like, well, is that I mean, if they want me to see it, then they're putting on a show.
Take that same perspective to Facebook, for example, the social media networks.
Sure.
Are we not presenting the best of us?
Right.
Why would we present, or unless you have no outlet whatsoever and you're presenting every open wound?
Right.
You know, we're presenting the best of us. I'm only presenting the stories that I want to tell you about my kids.
Yeah, and I deliberately tried to sort of go against that by, like, I was sending out. I still every once in a while send out a story for publication, and I've been getting, you know, rejection letters, which one gets, you know, or emails, you know, rejection emails. And so I would say, okay, well, you know, if I'm gonna write, if I'm gonna let everybody know about my various, you know, victories, so to speak, you know, then what I'm gonna also let them know about, you know, some of the defeats.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I think everybody should do that. You know, everybody should, you know, because, you know, this is a part of life too. You know, you know, maybe I don't like let you know things that are inappropriate, like, you know, oh well, you know, like I just had a fight with my boyfriend or something, and it went really horrible, and he said I was an asshole or something.
Yeah.
You know, I might not tell you that, but you know, because I don't want to use that. You know, like people do in order to sort of recruit people against their other people in the relationship, to triangulate other people. People like play out their whole like drama on Facebook for that reason. You don't want to go in that direction, but also,
my question there is the person who's playing out the drama on Facebook less or more honest? Or is there a level of honesty that we all present? Is there a baseline? I mean, I gotta admit, we are. I think that Facebook is an excellent tool to reconnect, but as to getting a better handle as to how Aaron is doing, or how Cameron's doing, or how Sri is doing, we're only seeing a highlight reel of the very cream of the crop, or the very dregs. We're seeing the Jay-Z Salome fight.
We're not usually seeing breakfast
plans with the Kardashians, and that's it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I mean, I think it's always good to sort of ask yourself, like, what are you trying to do in the world? How are you trying to sort of shape the world into a different kind of place when you're putting something out on Facebook, and in some ways, I mean, if what I'm trying to do is reconnect, and maybe I'm trying to let people know that I'm doing okay, or which is fine. But I think it's also okay to let people know, when you have something's frustrating you, or I mean, I probably didn't feel like comfortable enough to say on Facebook that I was getting a divorce, which I was. Some people do, and I think that's awesome. When people are able to sort of say, this is what I'm going through. I'm getting divorced. It's a big event in my life, and and I guess why didn't I do that?
Well, that's really interesting to me. Why do you think that's awesome to be that open? I mean, I guess there's a level where, yeah, that's really cool, but at the same time, I mean, don't you feel like things should be sorted, or you don't want to drag other people into it, and it's always going to be your side of it on your wall, and there's issues along there too. I mean, and then there's the vague booking. I've done it. I'll admit I do it on occasion. I'm really frustrated. Oh, yeah, of course, because it's fun to call you out on it, Sri. But don't you feel like there's this? I've seen people go through this like litany of terrible stuff, and they put it all out in vague terms, or they're just totally fishing. Don't you think that that's what happens a lot more when in a situation like that? Or
yeah, and I feel like anytime you sorry.
No, go on. Go ahead and finish your thought.
Yeah, anytime you're trying to sort of communicate something very indirectly, yeah, you should ask yourself, like, is there a more direct way of sort of going after what I want, or if you're looking for some kind of response from others that's to soothe you or in some way, a lot of times, that's work you can do for yourself. So, yeah.
Well, then is it the blunt honesty that's the most desired in a social media network? For example, if I'm having a piss poor day, and I don't necessarily want to bother everyone in my social set with the piss poor day that I'm having, should I just make a declaration, a vague book, if you will, that I'm having a piss poor day? PM me if you could be a shoulder to cry on.
But why do you want to put that out there? Huh? Why do you want to put that out there? Why is it important that everybody that you knew from high school through your current life needs to know that your day sucks?
Well, but he said it was because he wanted to private message me if you want to help me with this. That's great.
Because I think the vague booking is just that. It's just that it's not stated so bluntly.
Yes.
it's stated in vague thing to see who's the cool friend that would respond to that vague response. Instead, I'm just gonna go. I'm having just.
But how about if you just send me a direct message,
well,
and say and tell me what's up instead of like.
But I don't know what kind of day you're having. Why would I want to? If I did that, then I just vague book and see who would respond. Which is now we're going now. The vague book is an okay thing to do because it evokes those who have time to respond and care enough to do so will start reacting to your vague book.
Yeah.
And now you could do what you wanted to do in the first place, to vent to somebody who's listening.
I probably vague book in ways that I don't even recognize. Yeah, because I don't actually vague book usually. I think what I might do is put up a quote or something. Like one of my favorite quotes is from this book. It's from Louise Averno. Just absolutely wonderful poetry. But I mean, it's some of the darkest stuff ever.
That sounds like my poetry book. That's great.
I love this. Death cannot harm me more than you have harmed me, my beloved life.
Wow. So all of a sudden, you've got family members going, "Are you okay? You should come home. You should."
That's what happened. That's what happened. If I put quotes from this up on Facebook, it's a big alarm. It's you should be private messaging me, but the thing is that you also have the option of saying, oh, that's a nice poem, so like yeah.
But on the flip side, now Cameron and I lost Eric Harnish to suicide.
I would say everybody.
Prior to Facebook. Now I'm kind of wondering, had Eric Harnish was a fraternity brother of ours that was my year.
Do you remember Eric? He had long hair.
I don't think I do, but
bright blue eyes.
Once you go onto my wall, and I think early on, about a week ago or two, I put up the portrait of the fraternity class of 1991, which would be just before Cameron showed up, I think, or he might be in there. I don't know. Point is that he is to my left on the wall, and he was in law school when he took his life. But this is prior to Facebook going public and it becoming a very day-to-day social activity that we do. It was for the tech heavy at the time. I always argue that if we had the Facebook, or if even just Eric and I were chatting on Facebook, would that have made a difference in his decision making? Would he have to put out a death poem, and I would go, "The fuck? Are you all right? What's going on? Call me up. Don't try to message me. Here's my phone number. Call me up." Could that have made a difference? Yeah, I continuously wonder that the vague booking is I don't want to be obtrusive, but I'm feeling shitty right now, or I'm feeling great right now, but I don't want to bother you with the.
Right.
I don't want to depress you people because I feel effusively.
Right. Both really wonderful, wonderful feelings and really painful feelings. They're both in a way really isolating, because
absolutely.
Any kind of great emotional intensity is isolating because other people aren't. I can't mirror that back to you, because they're just having a normal day,
right?
Which is that's what makes grief really, really difficult. Because it's like, well, your world actually fell apart. Like the very, the meaning of your life is kind of up for grabs.
Right.
in the midst of grief, and you're walking around like, and this was what it was like after like immediately after my split. It's like you're walking around and people are just having a normal day.
Yet you still have to live.
Right. So, can you tell us a little bit about that experience? Do you feel comfortable?
Oh yeah, yeah, and actually,
you said 13 years together, right?
Yep, I was with him for 13 years.
Wow.
And he's a wonderful guy. I mean, I still love him. It just, it didn't work out because yeah, I mean, I can give you as little or as much as you would like, but
It's your
I think
show, man. You give as much as you'd like to.
the I guess the an easy to digest version might be that he had some struggles with diabetes, with so just with with a chronic illness, and chronic illness, they stress relationships.
Uh-huh.
And this is totally my perspective. He could not take care of himself the way that I needed him to take care of himself, and it led to it led to sort of a lot of financial strain and things like that, and the relationship just couldn't sustain that much pressure. So it was really me cutting it off.
Okay.
It was me making that decision, and so yeah, I know. But it was a very sustaining, very sort of healing relationship for me. I didn't have any romantic relationships in college. All those sort of wonderful kind of socialization experiences that people have through high school, college. I didn't have that, partly because it's just hard to do that when you're gay. You just don't have all those opportunities.
And Knox must have been harder because the population,
Yeah.
though maybe more open-minded, the select. If I were to be racially profiling myself, the Indian community at Knox was nothing when I was going there. So I would have lost opportunities, But I guess turning it around for sexual preference, you can't really go, hey, everyone gay, raise your hand, and so that's your pool. You just don't do that.
Right. Well, it's funny because I think I was in a room where people were like the speaker maybe was a gay speaker or something, and they said, hey, okay, everybody who's a lesbian, raise your hand, and there's just like all these lesbians raising their hand, like all the gay guys like raise your hand, and it was just me, so like, I mean, yeah, my experience was like,
it was the 90s. Nobody wanted to admit they're open.
Right. Yeah.
Well, no, not nobody, but I guess it was less reserved than it was now.
Right. It is a lot more open now, and also it was harder when you're not like a super like sort of, how do I say this, like not a really stereotypical gay guy who I can't say this in a way that's like politically correct. If you're like one of these gay guys who
no, come on. I'm sorry, Aaron. We're teaks. I have Pete Glidden as part of my pledge class. I've got John McCurdy as part of my pledge class.
Matt Richardson.
I mean,
all of those guys were really very
open about their perspective.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And we didn't give a rat's ass. We loved it. Well, but not to call us out on that, but the idea is that you had the very open and you had the very reserved.
Yeah, and I kind of see like I mean, I know that there are some different like environments, different places where you see more of the gay community. And like there are the more reserved, and then there are the more out there, and I feel like, and I could be completely wrong, but I have a feeling like libraries are very popular places for more reserved gay people. I don't know. I mean.
Yeah, and I had a hard time sort of and still do kind of like interfacing with people in sort of your traditional kind of going out to a club or a bar. I mean, I've been to 2 gay bars in my life, and I haven't.
I've been to more than that. I'm straight.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not a big drinker, but because of the internet, you can find and hook up, and not just hook up, but the word hook up, I mean just connect socially with people of like-minded, like interests, things like that, and it's just a lot easier to do that now, and so I feel much less isolated in lots of ways.
Sure.
And I'm really kind of jealous of in some ways of guys who are really young now, because I feel like you can be like me and be sort of a reserved, sort of geeky gay guy, and and meet lots of other geeky gay guys, and it's really easy to do that.
Think about now. I come from the ethnic perspective. That's the perspective I can speak of.
Oh yeah.
I feel the same way about my now actually generation brothers and sisters who are Indian, who the Indian flavor is now requested. It's something that gay, straight, left, right, up, down. They're going, wow, you're good looking.
Yeah.
Another question I'm going to.
No, that's awesome.
No, but and I'm a little jealous of that, because when I was of that, there were less of us, and I was much like the Chinese stereotype, very much into my books, and it took college for me to release out all that academic tension. Mm-hmm. But another question, and it throws out to both of you gentlemen. Do you find that once you're in a committed relationship, and in all three of our cases, we were married at one point for 13 years. Let's use 10 years as our number, because I think we're all about that, at least in that timeline. That there were times, especially early on in the marriage, that all of a sudden opportunities were at least presented. In other words, when I was a single man, it was really hard to find a date. Once I was married, all of a sudden, at least women and some men presented themselves to me on a platter at some point. Are you nuts? One, I'm wearing a ring, and secondly, where the hell were you when I was single? You know. Right. I'm going to ask that of you, Aaron, first, because you seem to have had not trouble, but otherwise tense single life, and then you met somebody who you hung out with for 13 years.
Yeah.
During that 13-year period, do you realize that? Did you find that it was easier to connect with other gay men?
Yeah. Well, add on to this whole thing that 2 years ago, maybe this was probably the most salient information, is I lost almost 80 pounds. Since in the last 2 years, I've actually lost over 100 pounds.
Wow. Hey, amen. That's my next goal.
Right. And then around that same time, all these dating apps or hookup apps started to come out, like Grindr and others.
Grindr. That's such a horrible.
I know. Oh my gosh.
Wrong name for the. All right.
You don't even know. Okay.
No, I don't.
So yeah. Yeah, it's been, and actually I'm in a relationship. I'm in a new relationship now. That's a committed, monogamous relationship now, and it didn't take me long. It took me about 6 months, but yeah, that also adds a whole other kind of level of complexity to it. And I happened to meet this guy through a mutual friend who wanted to hook up with us both. And so my boyfriend's name is Brian. As Brian and I, our relationship got stronger, this other guy, we kind of had to sort of push him out of of what was going on between the two of us, and and I felt kind of bad, because it's like, well, this guy brought us together, and he did it in the course of he was trying to hook up with me and with Brian, and by bringing us together, he sort of like excluded himself from the situation. Yep. So I felt kind of bad.
Was it an either-or proposition, or was he trying to?
This particular friend is more into sort of the polyamorous lifestyle, I guess. So from his perspective, it's like the more the merrier. Like literally, more is better.
Yeah, he just wanted something different.
Not
I mean,
something
that's not. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Oh,
It's
absolutely not.
circumstances, I'd be ready to think of it. But yes.
You just thank him and move on.
No, yeah, and so I felt like for a few months I got to have like a single the experience of being like a single gay guy in this connected, wired, internet modern world, and yeah, so I got a sense of what that is like, I think, and now I'm ready to have like a relationship again. I'm ready to be normal again. But yeah, but there is, especially for gay guys, there is as much intensity as you could, sort of like, you can be an enormous slut if you want and just go crazy. You really can. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Wow. Well, obviously for straight men you can do that as well. It's your success rate is not qualified by your desire to be so.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
It's very much qualified by your aesthetic perceived by others.
Yeah, yeah, and with gay guys, you can find like your particular niche. You can find those people who are going to go for you, whatever you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes it a lot easier.
Short Indian men back in my day just didn't have that kind of power.
You would though, especially. I mean, maybe now even as a straight person you could, but in the gay community you certainly could. You wouldn't. I mean, actually, the thing is actually with the ethnic side of things, that's a very white way of putting it. But
no. I put it out there. Oh, come on, are you kidding?
Yeah. I should qualify what I'm saying as being, I'm saying this as as a white person, and I do know that can be a barrier for people of color. That is a problem in the gay community, but
being white is a problem in the gay community.
No.
Being of color is
people of color, it's not. I think it's not as easy. But
it's an interesting perspective in our politics, or in our at least general body politic sociology. We try to equilibrate all perspectives, including gender issues. Supposedly, I am no different than the black man, than the white man, and in an ideal world, I shouldn't be any different than the black woman or the white woman.
Why is that ideal? Ideal in what sense?
In the intent of the law, as it's stated, not as it's interpreted. That's a different thing. But as it's stated, supposedly we are equal under the eyes of the law. Now,
so legally, but so we shouldn't be any different legally, and that's about it.
And yet, if it's illegal, then it's also. Now here's where I'm going to get in trouble, aren't I? No, I hate it when you give me a hard question when I'm drinking. No, I find that legislation on a constitutional level creates conversation. The argument for women still going on. The argument nowadays for race, of all things, is still going on. Not because of social issues, but because of legal questions. So yes, I argue that the legal statement and legal interpretation of those statements creates the tension or the relaxation of issues between races and genders. And nowadays, with what, 44, as of today, 45% of the states are recognizing same-sex marriage. By the end of the year, I'm betting it's going to be 85. That's my guess.
I hope so. Yeah.
And that's a rough guess. I'm maybe off by 10%, but certainly by this time next year, or end of year next year, 2015, 100%. It's just the way that things are going to go. So now that's going to come. That layer of legality is going to come into question. Adaptation of that perspective will take much longer because people have issues. You, of all people, Aaron, would understand this more than anyone, being a professional at the subject now. That people have psychological issues thinking about those arguments. Hell, I do. I absolutely do. I might have an affinity for certain things, but my personal perspective might not quite jive. I have to be able to go, wait a minute, your personal perspective is internal, perhaps learned behavior. The world is changing around you. Are you prepared to put that new programming into place? I certainly am. Mm-hmm. It'll be tense, but I'm ready to do it. Hell, I was ready to do it in college.
Tense to what's the difficult part? I just
the difficult part is being able to disregard previous social mores that I was privy to back in the 1990s, 1980s, 2000s. In other words, disregarding old programming for new programming, if you will. Now, the only thing that's hindering that, generally in the society, is each individual being able to prepare to accept the new program.
Mm-hmm. And just to be clear, like the new program is like being able to, like, what's an example? Like
accepting gay marriage.
Uh-huh.
I think that it is absolutely necessary that it's going to happen.
Right.
There's a legal, and then there's a social. Mm-hmm. The social always is lagging behind because it takes and sometimes where you think that the social is already all in lag step. For example, with the racial perspective, going back to that for a moment, what's happening with the voting rights laws and everything else, actually, the legal perspective is taking a backseat to the social. Everyone else socially have gone, what the fuck are you people talking about? Why do I need an ID to do something that I should be doing in the first place as a citizen of the United States? You already have my information because the reason why I'm living here is because I own a home and I've already registered for this already, you see.
Yeah. Well, I also think in the gay community, I think that we also have a lot of processing to do because, you know, if we do have this option increasingly to get married and, you know, and be as, you know, as miserable, quote, as everyone else, you know, and you know, in their monogamous relationships, then, you know, like, what does that mean for you know, what does that mean for us, for a people, you know?
You have to understand that. You have to understand that a lot of perspective that the gay community getting from the straight community is based on the day-to-day, or in other words, unless you've been in a relationship for 13 years, mm-hmm. and you understand that what breaks a relationship is it wasn't his illness,
right?
It was his management.
Yeah.
And what his management became was a signal of commitment to the relationship or not. Much like, again, my smoking and regulating my drinking is. Mm-hmm. If I was not committed to a relationship, I'd be having a cigarette right now in front of me. Mm-hmm. See what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that reminds you of, like, sometimes people say that, like, women sort of civilize men in some ways.
No, it's not that. It's relationships. It's
Right.
it's the natural benefit of the relationship.
Yeah.
Versus the proclivities as an individual to do whatever the fuck they want.
Right.
Invariably, whatever the fuck they want will always be weighed against the benefits of the relationship, because the benefits of the relationship are better than what
I think that's
I personally want to do. I want to start a rock band right fucking now.
No,
But
I
to
think
leave
that's
my
great.
wife and kids to go tour and play really bad music?
And see, I am on your side with that. Like, I am fully sort of with you, in your perspective there. And at the same time, I feel like I don't have a lot of support from my community about sort of exactly what you're talking about.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot of people sort of saying, well, that's the heterosexual sort of view of relationships, of like monogamy and commitment and things like that. And so I am into all that. Like, I think that commitment and monogamy are a great idea for exactly the reasons you're talking about.
But,
And
don't you think that that's those are just the louder voices? Like because that perspective that you value is a more mild, more even-tempered kind of thing. It's not the kind of stand up and shout and wave your arms kind of thing. So
Stop right there. If the relationship is an open relationship, quote unquote, and all parties are agreed to it, none of my fucking business. I don't care if you're gay or straight or whatever else. If it means that if it's the benefit of the group that every 6 months there is a sharing party or whatever the hell you people
sharing
do.
party.
That you invite equally minded people to vent steam. That's your fucking business. If you want to post it on Facebook, you could have 100 people argue with you about it. I could care less. If it means that I get to go to Knox College every homecoming just to get the fuck away from my family for just a weekend so I can really just vent, it benefits the relationship. I do everything wrong that I'm not doing while I'm here. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
It's benefiting the relationship. The wife has always, the 2 times that I did it, every time she goes, you look pleased that you went and came back. Now let's get back to business. Let's get back to work. And invariably is,
and thank God you came back.
She's absolutely right. I am rejuvenated. I've revisited my youth for just a brief amount of time.
So Aaron.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you this. All right. So are you actually seeing clients now and everything?
Yes.
Really? So you are.
Thank you for listening. How much do I owe you?
Yeah, he's got a dossier. He's got a dossier on both of us at this point. He's taking notes. Okay, so
you were fucked up so bad.
Yeah. So.
I promise no diagnosis happened.
So okay, wow, that's cool. I'm
hoping it did. Test cases.
No, yeah, I see clients in our training clinic, Center for Counseling and Family Therapy at St. Louis University.
Good.
Yep.
Share the URL with Cameron. He's gonna process this whole thing. It's
Will do. Let me just find that.
Well, yeah.
Oh, not right now, but later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, let's see. Shree said that he's going on an excursion tomorrow, like at 11, or no. Early, but like we're coming.
Oh, I have to. Oh, I forgot to do the.
We should do the D20 questions now, because sometimes those can accordion out. You know, like the pizza question. That can go on for like a good 10, 15 minutes.
Well, let me open up the D20 questions. I have it on my Microsoft Word here. Da, 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 da.
How's your Memorial Day, Aaron?
Good.
Your Memorial weekend?
There it is.
Has it been mellow?
Pretty mellow, pretty uneventful.
Yeah.
Well,
good.
We've been this year has been an interesting year for my family. My wife is working now, and as of October of this year, she'll be working 1 year. So her whole perspective on how we do things, it used to be when she was not working that we would reconnect with my parents or the rest of the family, and we try our best to get out there, and we'd have to do it on really slim budgets. Now we have more money but less time because she's committed to her work and I'm always committed to mine. So although we have more money to be able to expend, we have to organize ourselves a whole lot better. But it's an interesting time, and everyone should find that happiness because I could tell people, no, I really can't go to your boring thing. I'm gonna stay at home and play with my kids because I don't have that kind of time. It's kind of fun. 20 questions.
Great.
So I'm gonna roll first I'm gonna roll the first 6-sided die to tell you how many questions you're going to be asked. Okay. Oh my Lord! All 6 of them.
Okay.
Oh, lovely.
Half an hour. So let's get this rolling. First question is number 13. Wingtips, cowboy boots, hiking boots, sneakers, sandals, or slippers, and why?
Okay. I think I'll go with sandals because that seems so sort of apropos of our sort of Knox context. I remember getting my first pair of what are they called? Birkenstocks.
Yeah.
At Knox, and I remember doing a lot of walking in those Birkenstocks, and I have a really old pair of sandals right now, and I think I should get a new pair because I used to just walk. I used to walk a lot, and especially when I was at Knox, and in a great summer I had. It was in 1996 when I went to. I spent the summer in Eugene, Oregon, at the University of Oregon.
Sure.
And did an enormous amount of walking then in those Birkenstocks, and so I have good associations with sandals and Birkenstocks. It's kind of funny because I feel like I had a lot of lesbian friends at Knox. I feel like I'm almost more of a lesbian in some ways than I am a gay guy, even though.
Me too.
Yeah.
Totally.
I mean,
do you know how many lesbians came out to me at Knox? It was crazy. It was like one after another. It's just like they'd sit me down and be like, "I have something to tell you." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, whatever. I know." It's like
I can't tell you how many times I used to wear a skirt at Knox, and my senior year mostly, and only because I burnt my stomach.
Yeah, that's the reason.
I burnt my stomach, and I couldn't wear pants because it pressed right up against, or shorts, pressed right up against the wound. The belt would. So I would instead wear a broom skirt and put it all the way up to my chest, so that it would clear the stomach and it would still look. Yeah. And I put a T-shirt over it. You could see the image, and then put sandals. This is the spring of 1993. And I can't tell you how many women of all shapes and sizes would of every proclivity would come up. Wow, you look really good in that. And men as well, and yet there wasn't really any question that there's some that even consider me alpha male, and that I laughed at that because Cameron is more alpha male than I am.
And so now the theme of this evening's show is cross-dressing, apparently.
Why not?
We've touched on this several times, so
why not? Number 15. Is there food that your taste buds automatically reject and describe in detail?
What is there that you put in your mouth and it immediately just comes out? Like it's like you taste it and it's like, oh my god, this is terrible.
Is the only thing I can think of, the only food that I've ever really despised, I think, is it's a Middle Eastern dessert called halva, Halva.
Oh my god, I know it well, my friend. It happens to me at the same time. There's just way too much honey and sugar at the same time, and it just kicks my butt. I swear to God, I pass out with hypoglycemia. Just, oh my God, goodness. Yes.
I don't know what it is about this stuff. It just tastes like dirt to me. It does not taste good.
Wow.
It's basically a really heavily sugared and buttered carrot cake. And yet the carrot shreds are barely baked or barely cooked.
You know what? I think we're thinking of something different. I might like look it up or something. It's what I'm thinking of is a sort of a candy bar type thing.
Oh yeah, like almondy. It's white or off-white, beige color.
Yeah.
Okay, and in that, instead of using carrots, they use almonds, whole.
Okay.
Almonds, and so if the grinding process isn't right, then you get all this chalky.
Yeah.
And Indian sweets always kick my. I love chocolate, and Indians don't do chocolate well, or at least Indian dessert makers. They don't know what to do with chocolate.
Yeah.
I can't.
Well, they didn't find the New World.
Yeah, they didn't. You're right.
You know, so they don't have any
Cadbury factory.
There's no
fucking Hyder about it.
There's no chocolate city in India.
Hey.
It's not like Switzerland or.
By the way, that's the soundtrack for this whole
Chocolate City.
Opening and closing. We should do Chocolate City by Parliament, just on principle.
That'd be so confusing for anybody.
Just to screw with people. That's what we should do. Number 9. Boxers or briefs, and why?
You know, I remember I wore boxers through like college. I think because when you'd get out of bed, like, and you were wearing boxers, like that was sort of, you could, you were almost presentable in some ways. But I guess now that they have boxer briefs, sort of like boxers that are kind of longer,
right?
Sort of my favorite now. I think briefs are a lot. Yeah. Briefs are like really comfy, and yeah.
Yes, they are. Yeah. Cameron, just out of curiosity, what was your answer to this question?
Me? Oh, I've become a fan of the boxer briefs as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've always done briefs. I've never really been a fan of the boxers. I've always liked the support.
Okay. Sure. Righto. Number 7. You are a crusader. Who are the infidels that you must destroy, and why?
Well, what immediately comes to mind was I was recently at an academic conference. I got really upset with some guy who he was presenting on. The title of his talk was "My client is gay and Christian. Now what?"
I think I saw you post about that.
Oh my God! I almost lost. I mean, like, I came very close to, like, for the first time in my life, like, publicly going off on somebody very harshly. Like that, it almost happened.
You only live once.
Well, what was his angle on that? What was he?
Okay, so this guy was from a place in Washington, Missouri, from the Forest Institute of Professional Psychology. He was getting his PsyD, which is sort of like the MD for psychologists, like the practice degree, and so he's from a very a fundamentalist Christian perspective.
And there's
Okay.
Thank you. We're done.
So wow. Okay. So he was saying okay.
And the thing is that he was coming from a kind of a sort of a good place, in that he wanted to be able to sort of treat gay people, so like a gay client who was was okay with being gay, like he would want to have that person as a client, but how would he deal with that, given the fact that he thinks that it's wrong to be gay, Like,
yeah, it sounds. Yeah, I mean, it's about his perspective.
Right, it's about his problem.
Exactly. That's the issue, man.
Yeah.
You don't need to write a paper.
He's trying to make the world safer for anti-gay therapists who are dealing with gay people and not wanting to make the gay people unhappy or something. Yeah. So like, I guess therapists who who think that their personal comfort with their own beliefs is more important than their clients.
But doesn't it make sense that belief systems would get in the way of being a good therapist in many circumstances?
Yeah, and I actually think that this is what my dissertation is going to wind up being about. Is
Nice.
yeah, when you have a client who threatens your worldview in some way, and then threatens your self-esteem because of that, because something about them sort of goes against your belief system. How do you deal with that? How can you make yourself safe for that client?
Wasn't that the same argument that I'm sorry? Wasn't that the same argument that Melfi had with Tony Soprano in some way?
That was weird. That was really weird. That last episode, when she just sort of decided that he was antisocial and she couldn't treat him just all at once. She made that decision.
Well,
that was just really
but the idea that this woman who has never broken a law, did everything right, got her PhD, and she gets this client where she's got to treat the client, and the client is totally antithesis to everything that she believes.
That's a great maybe I'll wind up using that now. That'll be in my dissertation because
I argue that we all eventually will go through that perspective in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
That somebody important, somebody that will be in our lives for at least an important brief or long period of time, totally changes our perspective. It could be, in my case, it could be my sons.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying every day with you, Shree. It's just not happening.
But it's it's the main reason why when people talk to me about Facebook and I get comments from conservative friends that are totally just blowing rhapsodically about the company byline, and I aggrandize them. I let them say their piece. I actually engage with them, and I let them go through the motion. People are PMing me from the side going, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you letting this guy talk? I'm going, he's a friend of mine, and he's got, or she has an equal perspective than I do. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm too lefty.
And you can say maybe I'm wrong. You can say that. Like, you have the ability to say that. And I think, what I'm trying to sort of...
You've seen some of this shit.
What I'm trying to come up with is...
Comment on some of this shit.
What are you saying here?
Yeah, like I think to be able to say the argument I'm trying to sculpt right now is that for someone who is trying to be culturally competent, one of the things that people try to do when they are trying to be like culturally competent with dealing with people from any sort of culture or background, the main strategy is they learn more about that culture. I think that's great, and I think that's important. I actually think what's more important is to be able to handle it when you encounter somebody whose background or beliefs so conflict with your own that it sort of threatens to kind of knock you off of your pedestal, kind of mess with your self-esteem in some way. You know, I think you have to be so in touch with where your self-esteem comes from.
Yeah.
That sort of you're not all that vulnerable to you know, being kind of knocked off your pedestal in some ways.
That's hard. That's really hard.
Yeah, and I think that if you can't, and I think that you know, when you're, you know, from a liberal arts background like from Knox, I think that's sort of like second nature to us. So, you know, we're just so used to, we're meeting lots of different kinds of people and realizing we're not the center of the world, and you know, and that's great. You know, more to learn.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm as confident about that as you are. I find that the people who debate with me about everything tend not to be from large or from small liberal arts colleges.
Mm-hmm.
But it is up. I find that the folks who are from Knox are very clear that they believe that they are going on a right-minded path in assessing the argument.
Well, yeah, they find the point where the argument breaks, like if they disagree, they find that point and
then work on that. And
try to determine whether there's even a point of discussion.
And
in many cases, there's just no point in arguing because it's based on an assumption that's not provable either way.
Right.
It's about your perspective and your belief system.
Certainly.
It's all about preference at that point.
And my whole thing is that I am never right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty damn sure that I'm never right. B, invariably I will never address a direct attack.
Right.
I will always look at the attack as information by which I can refute.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't ever refute with, I think that. I always go to the point. Usually I start with a citation, an op-ed or a actual article and then I start quoting from the article as the introduction to the article URL. You read this over here. And I love it how people react to that.
Well, what if instead you said you started with I feel? Because, I mean, that's really irrefutable. I mean, it states the point at which you're starting your argument with a feeling, because that's where rationality begins. And then you jump from there and go, and then you start looking for reasons to support that feeling.
And here is where I have the limitations of my academic upbringing. Is that I was bred with the scientific method. I have a hypothesis. I don't have a feeling. Some people would say that they're interchangeable. I disagree. I have an observation that I make and I don't understand it, and so I'm going to make a hypothesis as to why that observation occurs.
Yes, and
I have feelings, and I usually use those feelings to express an opinion, which has no basis in fact.
You have a feeling that the world that you experience on a regular basis is the one that you experience. That the reality matches the experience. That's where your feeling begins. That's where the assumption starts.
Yes.
And that's the big breaking point. And from there, and that's a huge one. That's like, because it's hard to go with certainty once you hit that point. But I mean, this is beating a dead horse, because I've talked to you about this a million times.
Philosophy, aren't we?
What
is there an actual? I mean,
we should just perception. You and I should just do a show on this, just you and me on this until it's right, because
is it right?
And what I mean by right is like until we understand where we disagree with each other. To the point where we can't actually talk about it anymore.
Aaron hasn't spoken in about 3 minutes.
I know that. This is his show and he hasn't spoken. So
I
where
apologize.
where are you, Aaron? Like, you're in Missouri, right?
Yes, St. Louis, or St. Louis County.
And you are in a house,
Mm-hmm.
and you said you're in the basement? We asked
Yeah,
this of everybody because we talk to people out on the West Coast, and
Uh-huh.
they don't have basements there.
And yet
And-
I'm in a basement.
He's in a basement. I just recently moved to my attic for the show. So, like, I used to be in the basement, but now I'm in the attic. I
So we're
moved
all
my...
peripheral kind of places. Like,
Exactly. there is...
Well, Cameron is in Chicago, and he's in an old Victorian. Is it an old Victorian? Is that what it's called?
I wouldn't call it... I don't know.
next time we'll be talking to somebody in a bunker.
I'm in an undisclosed location. It'll be Chummy. Chummy is going to... Anyway,
Somewhere in Sri Lanka. An undisclosed location. Okay, so...
we have 2 more questions. So
What was the last...
I rolled another 9, so I had to re-roll. 12. Beer, wine, or other? I'm going with wine personally, but go on. You
Oh, beer or
and
wine?
wine.
Beer, wine, or other?
Or other. I'm so not a drinker. I'm kind of the wrong person to ask. I guess.
Have you ever had a bad night with something?
Hmm?
Have you ever had a bad night with something?
Oh.
Something that you likely can't smell again without feeling queasy.
No. You know what? I'm lame. I'm terrible. Like, 'cause I've. You know what? I would say that I'm more likely to like sort of go wrong with like prescription drugs. Like if I get like if I get a prescription of Vicodin or something, like I will save that stuff like for later because that is seriously good stuff, right?
Wow. Okay.
Actually, I did that with my wisdom teeth. When I had my wisdom teeth taken out, they're like, "You're gonna need this. This is gonna hurt so much."
Like,
So I held on to
will
him.
endure that pain.
I held on to him and I was like, "Okay," and then it just didn't hurt as much, and so I took him to college for recreational use. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but maybe that's something I shouldn't put out there. But
No, it's okay. It's
well, I don't know if it's okay.
You could defer the question.
So
Given your perspective, you could defer the question.
but like, how about, are you a beer drinker, a wine drinker, or do you like spirits?
I think I have a weird reaction to alcohol. I think I have what they call, like, even though I'm not Asian, but I think I have Asian flush reaction. Like
Okay.
I can't metabolize alcohol normally.
I'm
So
taking offense to all of this conversation. Just
Right.
to,
oh yeah. No, I get flushed. I get almost achy. Like
You're one of Genghis Khan's 17 million heirs.
you know what? Maybe like. Well, my Jewish relatives are from Eastern Europe, so.
There you go. It could have happened.
Hmm.
So okay. So he's not in any camp.
I sort of like Guinness.
Okay.
I would say if I was going to go with one or the other, I would go with beer and I would go with Guinness.
Okay.
and the final question happens to be the opening, which is, what is your favorite kind of pizza?
Pizza. I think my favorite kind of pizza has to be like anything with like pesto or anything that like is not tomato based. I'm like really excited about like a sort of a white sauce type stuff with like mushrooms.
So not a marinara lover, huh?
Right.
We're in the
Not
same
so much
boat.
that.
I don't prefer it. I could
Mhm.
do it, but I'd rather go with something non-tomatoey.
Yeah. Anything like pesto-y is super good. Like garlicky, like Mediterranean sort of
Mm-hmm.
vibe. Yeah.
Pesto. You said pesto. Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
So
Well,
that's it. We've tortured you long enough.
Oh well, this was lovely. This was not torturous.
this is what we do. Actually, if you see the other videos, you'll realize that on a special level, we do. This is exactly what we do. We just have a conversation and ask stupid questions.
Trying
I'll
to
have
catch
to
up.
look at the more up to like the ones that after Josh. That,
Yeah.
Right.
so
Josh is, God bless him. He's my grandson, and I love him to death. those were always issue-based because we were always talking about the zeitgeist of the day. Here, we're trying to reacquaint ourselves with our friends.
And the site that all of these are posted on is MyFriendsAreAwesome.com. So if you go there, then it's like a blog, and it's set up, and there's a list of all the people who we've talked to and all the videos, and the site is set up so anyone can join, and then post their own threads if they want. So there's that kind of capacity, but otherwise, it's just at the moment it's just a great way to reconnect with Knox folks, and we're just going to keep doing it. See whoever wants to talk to us and hang out and have fun. And I don't know. I feel already like it's the people who we've talked to seem a little bit closer knit. Like there's a little bit, like, almost like I don't know, like we've reconnected enough in a way that we just feel kind of tighter. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And at least one, I think it was Lisa Preston that said that we should do this again, and we should do it over. In essence, we should create a virtual midnight club.
You know what? I would love to.
I wouldn't know the bandwidth to be able to handle different conversations.
That's my issue. I've seen things where there were multiple, like up to like 6 or 7
people.
Yeah, I know. I have a feeling that more than 3, you might get a lot of lag and stuff. But I think it might be worth a try at some point. I don't know. So, anyway.
I think our Facebook conversations will have a more dimension.
Yes, we'll be more we'll be better linked. It's like a brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly,
a fraternity with
your presence. If it wasn't stated before, in all due respect, your presence on the web and in my conversations personally is welcomed. I don't know that I've said that openly before, but
thank you.
But thank you for your perspective on things, because I need people who have a different worldview than I do to help me figure out if I'm missing something in the bigger argument that I'm trying to make. And I try to be very obvious in the arguments that I make. I'm very bad at being subtle.
Well, I kind of want to second what Sri said, because I agree that, like, your presence on Facebook is definitely different. It's insightful, it's thoughtful, and you're definitely one of the more thoughtful and cerebral friends that I have, and that's why, like, on occasion, like, I shoot you a strange question out of the blue, because it's like, he might know, and I think an answer he might give me would be relatively reasoned through, and
right. I'd rather respect that perspective before I move on than.
Yeah, I usually try to. I usually try to, if my only possible response is a hunch, or maybe, or like off the top of my head, like I don't know where this is coming from, I usually try to be transparent about that.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, but I feel like your hunch is a little bit closer than some other folks that I could ask.
Well, yeah, I mean, some people think like everybody's entitled to an opinion, sort of like, and then that means that whatever they're really comfortable with, that's what they'll say, as though that's a position or something,
Yeah.
like,
yeah.
Like, I don't want climate change to be a thing because that makes me feel bad or something. You know what I mean? Like, that's
like,
not very adaptive.
It doesn't really matter what you think, dude. It's like,
in all seriousness, I'm not going to speak for Cameron, but I will say this: I enjoy any opinion about the things that I am passionate about.
Oh yeah.
I am passionate about the subject, but I'm not tied to it.
Mm-hmm.
More than happy to. If somebody's going to tell me that Stream, maybe you should think about it this way. If I reject it, I'll reject it for a reason.
Yeah.
In other words, I'm going to argue the point as to why I think that's not where I want to go.
Right. But you just take things in, and if even just the way I'm saying
try
it,
to. I'm not saying I'm religious about it. I try to. There are times where I'm going to go, well, fuck you, that's just wrong, you know, and I might argue why that's wrong, and we're going to just disagree to disagree.
Mm-hmm.
But at least I'm going to try my damnedest to try to get all of it in, and it's hard to do because I'm in a group of friends that like to agree with me because I seem to be somebody.
I very rarely disagree with someone to the point where I just think they are just dead wrong, because usually it's good to find the nugget of truth in what most people have to say.
Take the argument all the way back to where you see eye to eye, and then look at the next step and see what's there. What breaks it?
I'm doing that with what I'm passionate about. I don't talk about art. I don't talk about the Kardashian wedding. I don't. I honestly, I see it all the time. I see, and then Facebook tries to feed me shit that I need, penile implements or shit like that. I don't advertise that stuff. What I'm looking for is the science, the philosophy of science. Mm-hmm. I'm not even looking for you to buy into scientific discovery. I don't want anyone to buy into any of that. But the process, the philosophy of it is what I'm trying to sell.
Yeah.
And when I get people who disagree with the end result of the philosophy is where I'm going to start being combative. I'm going to be a fucking asshole. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think when things get worthwhile to fight about, I mean, right to that meme I posted a little while ago. I might have borrowed it from you or something. When with Neil deGrasse Tyson saying, where we're gonna fight is if you're trying to, a religious person tries to change how I teach something in the classroom.
Right. Yeah. If you want to teach if you want to teach religion in Sunday school, I'm off your chest. If you're trying to teach religion in the science classroom, I'm in your face.
And that guy I got upset about at the conference, the fundamentalist Christian guy. Mm-hmm. I realized the reason he really got to me is the way you can hurt somebody is if you know somebody's values, that's when you could hurt them. And my values involve what I really value is about therapy, about psychotherapy, is that if you find a good therapist, you should be able to go to that person with whatever's bothering you. Mm-hmm. That's, and period. There should be no qualifiers to that. I mean, and I believe that I believe that all the way.
Okay.
And so people who want to mess with that, I get angry. And it's hard to argue with me intellectually then at that point. But the more something like that bothers me, the more I actually want to think about it and take it apart. So whatever.
I think that's cool though that you recognize that it doesn't come from a rational place, because I mean I mean, I could go on forever about this, but I won't. But I think rationality is overblown. I think that what people do is that they feel things first,
right,
and then they need to solve them. That's what the problem is. It's a feeling, mm-hmm. and then you work backwards through it.
Yes, you and I.
And like you were saying, you take apart the argument. You want to. It's valuable to you. And it's that feeling that creates that urgency and that value.
To do therapy, you have to have a lot of control over your reactivity. So you have to have a lot of awareness about what sets you off and triggers you.
Oh,
Like
wow.
you have more
Okay.
than most professions, I think.
So you can't be sitting in the chair like crying or
Right.
sweating profusely and red
Or if
faced.
you are crying, if you do, it's not the end of the world if you do like cry or something, but you have to be able to sort of be solid enough to be able to say, here's what's going on. A tear came to my eye because X, Y, and Z.
Okay.
So that
Own
the
up to
person,
the conversation.
your therapist doesn't, the person that your patient, your client doesn't then have to come in and rescue you, because that's not what you're being paid for.
Wow, Aaron, man, I love this conversation. This was cool. I loved reconnecting. I wished I could have talked more.
Right.
It's like what you offer is way cool. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming
Thank you
talking with
very
us.
much.
So,
Awesome.
I don't know if Sri went away or if he's
Uh-huh.
just but I guess we can just wrap this up. So
I just said that I was stepping away because it's about time for me to go.
Yep.
Okay.
So what we're gonna do, we'll just close off, and I'll send you the link and everything when it's ready, after I have it posted and everything. So okay, and everybody, until next time, I think we have our next guest scheduled in a few weeks, and we will have fun with her, another Noxie type person. So talk to everyone later. Bye now.
Thank you. It was awesome.